Flash Season 3, Episode 3, Magenta. Now this episode, of course, the big thing that was going to be happening was, of course, we have Wells and Jesse coming back from Earth 2. And Jesse, going from the last season, she became a speedster, which I think we all knew was going to happen at some point. And I kind of called it, and I mentioned that before in the last season. I was like, okay. Wally got right up. It was like, I feel fine. And she was in a coma and everything and all this extra stuff. And it was drastic. We don't know what's going to happen. It's like, she's definitely going to be a speedster first. So, of course, that ends up happening. They come back from Earth 2. I like the fact that they are actually staying for at least a couple episodes. I don't know if they're going to do something where it's like, suddenly we can't get back, to Earth 2. So we're, they're in the show. But they come back from Earth 2. We find out, because what they talk about is like, oh yeah, different Earth, different timeline, so they aren't affected, with being in an alternate dimension. So I thought that was pretty cool. When they came back, it's like, oh, you've never been in this room, and Wells like instantly figured it out, like, oh, so you went through time. He's like, oh, you've never been in here, which means you jumped through time, which, I think it was Caitlin. She was like, man, you figured that out fast. And he's like, yeah, well, we've never been in here either, so different timeline. It may have been Iris that said that, actually. But I thought that was cool. I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Different, they are literally in different dimensions. Whatever Barry does going through time, as long as they aren't in that dimension's timeline, it doesn't matter. Like, none of that crap would be affected to them. Like, nothing, they still know all the same old stuff that Barry knows. So I was like, that's actually kind of cool. So they come in, we get to see like the speedster gym, basically, which I thought was pretty cool. It was fairly simple. They have it looked like a smaller treadmill, but they have the treadmill, and now instead of the big treadmill, they have, basically, it's just an oval, and you can just run through, and they basically can track everything as you run through. And I thought that was really cool, actually. I was like, that's really simple, but it's also kind of cool. It's a nice little visual as well, because like when Jesse was running through, it's like you just see lightning running around them. I was like, alright, that's actually kind of awesome. I can appreciate that. She had, I didn't really think to pay too much attention to it, but it seemed like her lightning was like full on yellow, and Barry's has like a sort of yellow red blend to it. Hers seemed to be like full yellow lightning. So I was like, alright, they're still doing different colors. We still haven't had two speedsters with the same colors yet. I think Wally may have had the same color in the the Flashpoint timeline, but Wally in this episode was very intense, and I actually didn't hate it. This is like probably the only time he's been like super mad and stuff, and I was like, you know what, I'm totally fine with it. And it wasn't that he was mad, it was that he was just upset because he wants to be, he wants to be like this great hero. And I thought that was actually really cool because, when he first showed up, like, everybody hated him for the same reasons. Like, he's so mad about this and he's mad about that, and he's angry here and angry there. And this was like, he's just upset. He just wants to be a good guy, like he sees Barry doing, and now Jesse has the opportunity to do it as well. And he's like, man, I just want to go out there and help people. I want to be able to, run at super speeds and just help Barry out and save a bunch of people in a split second. And it's nothing to me. It's just a cool little thing. And I liked it. I was like, alright, this makes a lot of sense. He wanted this power. He sees it. He was in the exact same situation as Jesse. And she's like, this is how it happened. And I knew he was going to do it. As soon as she said that, I didn't think he'd do it right there. I thought he would wait and do it on his own. But I was like, oh, she shouldn't have told him that. I was like, as soon as he asked like how it happened, and it was something like simple, like, oh, I basically freaked out and my powers, activated. I was like, yep, he's going to do it. And he just gets right in the street. But of course, she ends up saving him. They had a great scene with Wally and Barry arguing. I think this is the first time we've seen them arguing, and it wasn't stupid to me. It was like legitimate, because once again, it wasn't Wally being mad at somebody. It was like Barry was upset with him because he almost got himself killed, and he's freaking out, and he's like, I don't know how else to say it, like, don't do this because you will get yourself killed. Like, she has her powers already. It might, it might come later, it might not come at all. You have to accept that possibility. And I was like, I actually really like that. And I like the way they kind of had his storyline go throughout the episode, where it's like he was just upset when it started, and he seemed okay by the time it ended. And I think he realized something that, they were dropping a couple little hints in there. I think he knows he's going to be getting his power soon after he talked with Magenta, because she was like, oh, it started off with dreams and stuff, and he had this look, and then I was like, oh crap, he was saying, like, when he, at first it was like when he was talking with Jesse, he was like, I've dreamed about it, and I was like, whatever, he dreamed about having powers. I didn't think it was specifically he had dreams of the other dimension, or the other timeline, and when they had that scene where she was like, it just started off his dreams, and they kind of show him look at her, and I was like, oh crap, he wasn't just randomly dreaming, like, oh, this is what it would look like if I had my own suit. He actually has those memories, those little flashes from the Flashpoint timeline. So it's already started with him where he's in like the really early stages, and I guess once the flashes come more and more often and he starts having them during the day, maybe that's when Alchemy can find him. I don't. It's really hard to tell if Alchemy was the one that gave them the flashes, or how everything plays out. I would assume he was the one that did it. Maybe he just puts that out there, whatever, if he has a power or if it's actually magic or what. Maybe he puts some sort of aura out to people, and it's like, okay, they start to get these flashes and stuff, and then once they kind of, I don't know, I guess have more and more flashes, that's when he's able to like actually contact them and say, hey, I can give you your actual power. So that'll be cool. I hope they don't hold it off forever, and I don't know what to expect, because it's the main thing is that if they do give Wally his powers, once they eventually decide to, he's gonna be there. He doesn't live on Earth 2. It's not like with Jessie where it's like, okay, well, she's gonna leave to Earth 2, maybe like another episode. In the next episode they might leave, or the one after that. We'll get to see her in her outfit and stuff, and it'll be like, oh, that's really cool, it's 2 speedsters, and then she'll be gone in like 2 episodes. But Wally lives in that city on Earth 1, so I'm hoping that they don't do something crappy where it's like, I finally got my powers, and he's like, I'm going to travel the world, and he just leaves, and I would hate that. I'd be like, that's dumb. So I'm really worried about how they're going to do it, because they're constantly holding off on having multiple characters with superpowers, and we already have, we have the clues coming up for Wally. We've had that, since he appeared. We have Cisco with his abilities. He's working on the actual suit. We have Caitlin, who's still hiding her ability, so we have to see, how that's going to play out. But it was just interesting. Like, I don't know how they're going to do this, but they already have Caitlin and Cisco with powers, and they aren't going to leave as well. So it's like I'm hoping they don't just do something where it's like, all right, we can only have one speedster, and that's when Wally eventually takes off to do his own thing or something like that. But he's got the dream, so I was excited about that. And, they kind of made it tie together where it was like, oh, he dreamed about it. It seemed like nothing. And then Magenta mentions it at the end where it's like, oh, it just started as dreams. And it's like, oh, this might actually mean something. And I think that's why he was so happy, because his attitude totally changed. Like, he left the room and stuff. And when Joe was like, are you okay? He was like, oh, yeah, I'm totally fine. And he seemed genuinely happy to me, because he's like, holy crap, those weren't just normal dreams. It wasn't just, I'm thinking about having superpowers. That's me from the other timeline. So I think he realizes that now. And he's just waiting like, alright, I know what's going to happen. And he's going to go for it. And that brought up another question for me as to how is his character going to play out? Because everyone else, like this whole thing with Alchemy is like, oh, I'm preparing the world for whatever. But he's only gone, well, I guess it's not technically true, but seemingly he's only gone to villain so far, because he went to Clarice to turn him into the rival, and he went to the other girl in this episode to turn her into Magenta. But there were the other husks from the last episode, and none of those people seem to show up yet, so maybe they weren't villains. But he still gives them powers just to be like, alright, well, good guys fight bad guys. Some chaos has to come from that, which it does, because it's, superhero based, or superpower based, in general. So I'm kind of curious if he's going to just, be like, alright, here's your powers, now you're a good guy, or if he's going to try to manipulate him, or maybe he's locked up the people who are actually heroes. He's like, alright, you still have your powers, but you aren't going to cause any chaos, you won't help prepare the world, so, I'm just going to keep you locked up or something, which makes sense, because he's got those other people in the cloaks and everything, so I have to see how that plays out. But it just had me curious, like, alright, so he's given a bunch of people their powers, but they so far have only focused, of course, on the villains. But are these other people that we haven't seen yet good guys? Are they just, living their normal lives where it's like, I have my powers, I use them here and there, but I don't really do anything, grandiose with them? Or are they actually locked up? Is it like some Zoom stuff where he's like, alright, You guys are doing what I want, lock them in cages, and then just let all the villains go free. So we have to wait and see how all that plays out. But I really enjoyed what they did with Wally's story. I thought the Magenta story was pretty cool too, because it allowed us to get some pretty good interactions between Barry and his new partner, whose name I definitely can't remember. It's just Malfoy to me. But, you know, we had a couple of good scenes with them, and we see this guy, and you know, like when they talk about the lamppost and how it could have been lifted up by someone superhuman, and he comes in and he's like, you know, that theory works, except for the fact that it's equal pressure on all sides. So I thought that was pretty cool. And he's like, you know, he asked the girl if she needs a glass of water, and he uses that. So he, you know, he's a smart guy and stuff, which we already knew. But I actually like the interactions. And Barry's constantly saying some random stuff, like at the end when they watch the video, and Claire says alchemy. And Barry says it like alchemy, and he's like, "You heard that name?" He's like, "Oh no, no." And I'm like, he's like 2 episodes away. Like honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he found out, if his partner found out like in the next episode that he was the Flash. But I like the Magenta storyline. I actually like the idea of it. You know, because it seemed like we get the characters and they get all their memories, and then they instantly, it's to me at least, based on Clarice, it seemed like they automatically turned into their Flashpoint versions, like they just turned evil. But it's actually like a blending where if, you know, with Clarice, he kind of accepted it, where he was like, I always felt like something was missing. He instantly was like, I like this, I want to be a bad guy. But for the girl in this episode, she was fighting it back and forth. I was like, that's actually really cool. And so she was blacking out. You know, she didn't blend with her Flashpoint personality. She was trying to fight against it, so she would black out, and it was literally one or the other. And I was like, that's actually very interesting. And the way it ends is that she still has to fight with that other side of her, and it seems as though she doesn't get the powers because she didn't try to blend with that alternate version of her. She was just a villain, and she didn't want to be that person. So I was like, that's interesting. I thought that was a cool element to add to it, where it's like they can have the powers, they can have both timelines in their mind and all that stuff, or if they don't like the Flashpoint version of themselves, they'll fight against it, and it'll basically be a split personality where they black out and the Flashpoint personality takes over and they get the powers and stuff. But I would assume the powers are within her own body. If Clarice was able to blend with his and it wasn't a back and forth thing, I would assume at some point she'd be able to control it, and I wish I could remember the girl's actual name, but I would assume she'd be able to control it, and then she'd still be able to utilize the powers. I'm just saying that because whenever there's a random metahuman that ends up being a good guy, they always bring them back in a later episode, so that's why I actually bring that out. But I like the character. When she first showed up, I thought that they were doing a flashback of Caitlyn, because when I first saw her, I honestly thought she looked like a young Caitlyn to me. I was like, and I was like, that would be really weird if it was because of the red hair. I was like, that doesn't seem like something that Caitlyn would ever do. But at the same time, they've kind of done that before in Arrow, where it's like, oh, this is this character now, but this is who they were in the past, and they were the rebel character. So it didn't seem crazy to me at first, and I was like, I don't think this is, but she did, to me at least, she looked like Danielle Panabaker. But you know, I like her storyline. I thought it was pretty cool. Jesse having the powers, Wally going through his little roller coaster of emotions, wanting to have these powers and being able to do, you know, so much more. I thought that was really good. Jesse eventually ends up helping Barry at the end of the episode, which I thought was cool. And then she gets her outfit, which is I can't remember this person's name. I forgot what they were, you know, they actually used for this girl. I think they called her Adrenaline or whatever. But in the last season, the woman that was using Zoom's formula to get faster and faster, it was her costume. And I thought that was weird that they still had that costume. I was like, that looks like her costume. And then I saw the promo. I was like, that's the exact, I'm pretty sure that's the exact costume. And it was like, well, she disintegrated, so here you go. And it fits. So that's going to be Jesse's costume for a little bit. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm excited to see them actually have a cool team up in this next episode. And hopefully we get to see a ton of it, because we won't get to see it for quite some time. But I'm excited to see 2 speedsters in this next episode. Hopefully we get some real answers on who Alchemy is, what this organization is, this invisible person, you know, because we saw, you know, the arm, but we don't see that at all, you know, in the actual video. And I know that has nothing, I would assume that has nothing to do with the villain in the next episode, who is Mirror Master, which is very cool because Mirror Master is actually like one of the Flash's big villains. So I was happy when I saw that trailer. I was like, oh, that's really cool. They're finally bringing in Mirror Master. Seemingly, you know, on the surface, it's a dude who can go through mirrors. It might seem like he kind of has a useless power, but he actually has some really crazy stuff he can do. Like, there's, I think it's Justice League Doom, and it's a DC animated movie. They use him, like, he gets into the Batcave because of his powers, because he jumps into the mirror of the Batmobile, and that's how he gets into the Batcave, and he gets a bunch of info off of Bruce's computer. So he can do some very useful stuff with his ability. So I'm actually excited to see how they play around with it. I like kind of the clip, just the way it looks, where it's like it's kind of like he's phasing through walls, but of course it's mirrors. So I'm excited to see how they do the visuals with that, and how they mess with the idea of, you know, someone looking in a mirror and seeing his reflection and not theirs, or seeing their reflection and thinking like he's like behind them or something, and then he jumps through the mirror. We're probably going to get an exact scene like that, where someone's like, oh, and they look behind them and he's not there, and then they realize that he's in the mirror. I can almost guarantee that that's going to be an exact scene in the episode. But I'm excited to see what they do with this character. Can't wait to see, you know, like I said, the team up of two speedsters. We're going to have to wait probably to the last episode of this season, but Wally is going to get his powers. He has to, unless they save this villain for another season, which I don't think they'll do. So he has to get his powers sometime this season. That's all I want. I know it's not going to happen anytime soon, but that's still all I want. Because it's like, I just want Wally to have his freaking powers. He's Kid Flash. Let's just freaking have it. Like, they can just bring in better villains, or more villains, you know, at a time. I don't know, but I'm excited to see what they do with it, even though I have to wait a super long time. But glad to see that Wells and Jesse are back. You know, it sucks that I know they're only going to be in it for a little bit unless something super crazy happens, but I'm excited to see what they do with Mirror Master in this next episode. But of course, definitely want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I want to know what you guys think about Jesse joining Barry for these next couple episodes, or hopefully it's the next couple. I want it to at least be 2 episodes where they team up and not just this next one. And it's like, alright, we're out of here. I hope it's at least 2 more, but I'm sure it won't be. But I want to know what you guys thought about Jesse coming back, having superpowers, what that means for the future of the show, with them, you know, clearly being able to just jump back and forth, because I'm assuming that her having super speed is how they were able to, you know, basically open up the breach and get through to Star Lab. So they can kind of just jump back and forth now. Maybe she'll go to Earth too, but I'm sure Wells would go with her, especially now that she's got superpowers and she wants to help everybody. So I'm sure once she goes, he'll definitely follow behind her. So we won't have Wells in the season for too long, which really sucks. But I want to know what you guys thought about Jessie having her powers. Wally's story for sure. I want to know what you guys thought about in this episode. And of course, you know, the episode in general. I know I kind of skipped over the Barry Iris thing, but there wasn't much there to me. It was like, alright, they're trying to make it work, and they want it to work, and I assume it will because they're supposed to get married. So it was nice, you know, it was cute. They were, I don't know if Barry was like buying out that restaurant both times, because it was empty both times they were there. I'm like, did he buy this place out, or what's the deal with that? So I don't know. He must be loaded. I thought about that in this episode too. Because he was like, yo, don't worry about the prices. I was like, he was technically homeless pretty much the whole time. He's always lived with Joe. He should have a ton of money as a CSI, but I don't know. I don't know. I thought of that because of the food thing and the restaurant being empty, but it didn't have much weight to me as far as the episode. So there's my 2 cents on them doing the relationship thing. It's like, alright, that's cute. They actually kissed, or they were about to kiss. I don't even remember if they did or not. I think the phone rang before they kissed, but they want to make it work. It'll probably work. They're supposed to be together. Whatever. So I want to know what you guys thought about the other questions I asked, and of course, what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.